The Pokémon Go Incident. On August 6, 2016, a 20-year-old college student named Calvin Riley was enjoying a late-night walk through San Francisco's Aquatic Park while actively playing Pokémon Go. Riley was accompanied by friends when, without warning, gunfire erupted. He was hit and instantly fell to the ground. His companions immediately dialed 911 while attempting to render aid. Emergency medical personnel arrived promptly and transported him to San Francisco General Hospital. However, the injuries were too severe, and he was officially pronounced deceased from the gunshot wound. Police arrived on the scene right away and commenced their investigation, interviewing witnesses and searching the vicinity. Despite these efforts, no definitive suspect was identified. Although the park is near densely populated areas, investigators struggled to find substantive information regarding the shooter. The case garnered considerable publicity as it was one of the first major violent crimes connected to a Pokémon Go player. Nevertheless, despite exhaustive investigative work and public appeals, no arrests have been made. Years later, the case remains unsolved. The FBI has publicly offered a reward for any information that would lead to the identification and apprehension of the perpetrator. Riley's family continues their pursuit of justice, often speaking out about their profound loss and stressing that Calvin was merely engaging in a game and posed no threat whatsoever. The PUBG Train Incident. The PUBG Train Incident took place in Mathura, Uttar Pradesh, India, in November 2021. Two adolescent boys were moving along the railway tracks while focused on playing PUBG Mobile on their cell phones. The tracks cut through a residential zone where local residents often utilize them as a shortcut. Both teenagers were thoroughly absorbed in their game, with their eyes fixed on their mobile screens as they proceeded through their match. They walked slowly along the rails, their entire attention devoted to the game. A freight train was steadily approaching them from behind. The train's engineer noticed the boys ahead and immediately sounded the horn repeatedly, attempting to capture their attention. He also engaged the emergency brakes, but the distance required for a train to stop is considerable. The boys, fully concentrated on their phones, failed to perceive the auditory warnings or the oncoming train. Other nearby individuals witnessed the unfolding situation and tried to yell warnings, but it was too late. The train struck both teenagers before they could move to safety, resulting in instantaneous death for both from the impact. Local law enforcement arrived to investigate the accident, confirming that both boys were actively playing PUBG Mobile at the moment of the collision. According to reports from local news outlets, officers recovered one of the phones with the PUBG application still operational. Local authorities subsequently leveraged this tragedy to initiate public awareness campaigns regarding the dangers of using mobile devices in hazardous locales, especially near railroad tracks. We inhabit a world where even a fleeting moment of distraction can prove fatal. I came to realize this harsh reality when I looked up my own name and email address online. Page after page of data broker websites displayed my personal details. Old residences, phone numbers, and even data concerning my relatives, all publicly available. It feels deeply invasive. Data brokers amass and sell your private data without permission, generating billions in the process. And while regulations theoretically mandate that they remove this data upon request, the procedure is often so cumbersome and time-consuming that most people simply give up. This is precisely where today's sponsor, Aura, intervenes. Aura manages this process automatically, ensuring your personal information is removed from these sites and kept off. I personally utilize Aura and recommend it to my family and friends because it's the only way I genuinely feel secure online. But Aura is more than just a data removal service. It's a comprehensive digital security platform. It notifies you if your details appear on the dark web, provides instant fraud alerts for your bank and credit accounts, and includes a private VPN, antivirus software, a password manager, and round-the-clock US-based support. Furthermore, should any incident occur, They provide coverage with $5 million in identity theft insurance. It is frankly outrageous that corporations profit by commodifying our private lives. That's why I chose Aura. You can start a 14-day free trial using my link in the description or the pinned comment. In just 2 weeks, you'll see precisely how much of your personal information is being exposed. I wouldn't navigate the internet unprotected anymore, and you shouldn't either. My sincere thanks to Aura for sponsoring this video. The Advance Wars Incident. The Advance Wars Incident took place on September 19, 2008, in Nottingham, England. David Heiss, a 21-year-old, traveled from Germany specifically to locate Matthew Pike, a 20-year-old music composer for video games. The two had initially connected via an Advanced Wars fan community website. However, Heiss's primary obsession was not Matthew, but Matthew's girlfriend, whom he had also encountered through online gaming forums. Heiss arrived at the flat shared by Matthew and his girlfriend that afternoon. Upon finding the door, he forcibly entered the residence. Matthew was alone at home. Without any warning, Heiss attacked him using a knife he had brought with him from Germany. The assault was savage. Heiss stabbed Matthew 86 times in a frenzy, leaving Matthew no opportunity to defend himself. Following the attack, Heiss immediately fled the scene. Matthew's girlfriend returned home later that day and made the horrifying discovery. She instantly contacted police and paramedics, but Matthew had been deceased for several hours. Investigators quickly determined the killing was targeted. Heiss left the UK and was subsequently arrested in Germany weeks later. During his judicial proceedings, Heiss was convicted of murder and received a life sentence, with a mandatory minimum of 18 years to be served before being eligible for parole. The Call of Duty Incident. The Call of Duty incident occurred on October 13, 2008 in Barrie, Ontario, involving Brandon Crisp, a 15-year-old who had a heated disagreement with his parents over the game Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare. His parents, concerned about the time he was dedicating to gaming, had confiscated his Xbox 360 console. Brandon reacted with intense anger. That same evening, after his parents had retired for the night, Brandon took his bicycle and left home. The following morning, his parents discovered his absence and filed a missing person report with the police. Investigators launched an extensive search, distributing appeals and organizing volunteer search teams. Weeks passed with no sign of him. Police interviewed acquaintances, reviewed online gaming activity logs, and followed hundreds of leads. His distraught parents made televised appeals begging him to return. The case attracted national attention. On November 5, 2008, nearly 3 weeks after Brandon vanished, hunters found his body in a wooded region near Shanty Bay, Ontario, approximately 5 miles from his home. He was found lying near the base of a tree, with his bicycle close by. The medical examiner performed an autopsy, whose findings indicated that Brandon had died from chest trauma consistent with a fall from a height. Investigators concluded that he had most likely climbed the tree and fallen, sustaining fatal injuries. There was no evidence to suggest foul play. Brandon's death was determined to be an accidental fall. His parents later established a foundation dedicated to raising awareness about video game addiction and promoting better family communication. The PUBG Marathon Incident. The PUBG Marathon Incident took place on May 28, 2019, in Neemuch, India. A 16-year-old named FK Qureshi had been playing PUBG Mobile non-stop for roughly 6 hours. His family later testified that he had developed an increasing obsession with the Battle Royale game, often playing for prolonged durations. On that specific day, FK sat in his room with his phone and headphones, his gaze fixed on the screen, completing match after match with minimal breaks. His mother called him to join them for meals, but he declined, insisting he needed to complete his game. As the hours passed, FK suddenly collapsed. Family members rushed to him and discovered him unconscious on the floor. They immediately summoned an ambulance. Paramedics swiftly arrived and transported him to a nearby medical facility. Despite the medical team's efforts to revive him, FK could not be saved. The attending physician determined that he had experienced a cardiac arrest. According to reports in the local media and statements from the doctor who treated him, the cardiac arrest occurred after approximately 6 hours of uninterrupted mobile gaming. The death sent shockwaves through the local community and was extensively covered by Indian news media. Authorities cited the incident as evidence of gaming's potential risks, contributing to the debate that ultimately led to temporary bans of PUBG in several Indian states. The FIFA incident. The FIFA incident unfolded on April 10, 2016 in Isleworth, London, when a dispute between two men escalated fatally. Azim Issa, 22, and Sahil Roy, 28, were acquainted and had previously played FIFA together, leading to mounting tensions between them. In the days preceding April 10th, there had been ongoing friction and taunting between the pair, including insults connected to a FIFA match. However, on the night of the killing, the immediate catalyst for the violence was an argument concerning cannabis. Based on court testimony, the confrontation between Issa and Roy quickly intensified on the Isleworth street. What began as a verbal spat rapidly turned physical. During the scuffle, Issa produced a knife and stabbed Roy multiple times. Roy collapsed on the street. Witnesses immediately contacted emergency services. Paramedics arrived and attempted life-saving measures, but the stab wounds were too catastrophic. Roy was pronounced dead at the location due to massive blood loss. Police apprehended Issa shortly after the assault. Throughout the investigation and subsequent trial, prosecutors presented evidence regarding the long-standing dispute. The presiding judge acknowledged that the immediate trigger was a minor argument over cannabis, calling the catalyst trivial. Nonetheless, media sources also reported on the earlier FIFA-related taunting in the days prior. In court, Issa was convicted of murder. The judge sentenced him to life imprisonment, requiring him to serve a minimum of 20 years before becoming eligible for parole. The GTA 3 incident. The GTA 3 incident occurred on June 25, 2003, near Interstate 40 in Newport, Tennessee. Two stepbrothers, William Buckner, 16, and Joshua Buckner, 14, took their family's .22 caliber rifles to a forested area adjacent to the highway. They had spent the night before playing Grand Theft Auto 3, a game that permits players to engage in criminal acts, including firing weapons at vehicles. The boys positioned themselves in the woods and began shooting at vehicles traveling on the interstate. Over a period of about 30 minutes, they discharged dozens of rounds at cars and trucks moving at highway speeds. Bullets shattered car windows and struck vehicle bodies. One bullet hit 45-year-old Aaron Hamill in the head as he drove with his family, causing his car to veer off the road and crash. Another person, Kimberly Bede, sustained serious gunshot wounds. Emergency services responded to numerous distress calls. Police successfully tracked down and arrested both boys. During questioning, William and Joshua informed investigators that they had been motivated by Grand Theft Auto 3 and wished to experience what shooting at moving vehicles was like in reality. Aaron Hamill succumbed to his injuries, although the other victims survived. The case received national attention due to the boys' young ages and their stated motivation. Their case was handled in juvenile court, where they pleaded guilty and were given indeterminate state custody, meaning they would remain in state facilities until authorities decided they no longer posed a danger. The Call of Duty Mobile Incident. The Call of Duty Mobile Incident took place on February 22, 2021 in São Paulo, Brazil. Ingrid Saul Oliveira Bueno de Silva, a professional Call of Duty mobile player, was at her home when someone came to her door. Ingrid, who was 19 years old, competed professionally in the mobile Esports circuit. Standing outside was Guilherme Alves Costa, another Call of Duty mobile player associated with the competitive gaming community. What transpired next horrified Brazil's esports world. Costa assaulted Ingrid with a knife, stabbing her repeatedly. The attack was brutal and unrelenting. Ingrid's family or neighbors heard the commotion and alerted the police, but by the time help arrived, Ingrid had suffered fatal injuries. Paramedics tried to save her, but the wounds were too severe, and she was pronounced dead at the scene from multiple stab wounds. Police immediately launched an inquiry. Costa was apprehended soon after the murder. During police questioning, he confessed to killing Ingrid. The investigation pointed to underlying tensions within the competitive gaming scene, though the precise motive was never entirely clarified. The Brazilian esports community was devastated by Ingrid's death. Fellow players, teams, and organizations held online tributes and memorials. Her team permanently retired her gamertag, Saul. In August 2022, Costa was sentenced to 14 years in prison for the murder of Ingrid. The case underscored increasing concerns about violence occurring within professional gaming circles. The Fortnite Incident. The Fortnite incident unfolded on February 7, 2025 in Essonne, near Paris, specifically in the Épon and Limay area. Louise, an 11-year-old girl, went missing, and the case shocked France when her body was discovered the next day. A 23-year-old suspect was later detained in connection with Louise's death. During the legal inquiry, prosecutors disclosed that the suspect had left his home in a rage following a Fortnite disagreement and had intended to commit a robbery. Due to the victim's age and the ongoing legal proceedings, many specific details were not immediately released to the public. French authorities managed the case with extreme caution. The incident triggered an intense national discussion in France regarding online gaming security, especially for minors. Parents, educators, and child protection organizations demanded stronger safety measures, improved parental controls, and increased vigilance over children's gaming activities. The Pokémon Go Incident 2. The Pokémon Go Incident 2 took place on January 26, 2017 in Chesapeake, Virginia. Jian Chen, 60, was sitting inside his minivan, engaged in playing Pokémon Go. He had parked his vehicle near a community clubhouse in his residential neighborhood. Chen had been gaming for some time when security guard Jonathan Cromwell approached the area. Cromwell, who was armed and on patrol, observed Chen's vehicle parked by the clubhouse. Cromwell opened fire on Chen's minivan, discharging his weapon 10 times through the vehicle's windows. The hail of bullets struck Chen multiple times while he was seated in the driver's seat, giving him no opportunity to react. When the shooting ceased, Chen was slumped over, critically wounded. Emergency services were immediately called. Paramedics transported Chen to a nearby hospital, but his injuries were too severe, and he died shortly after arrival from multiple gunshot wounds. The case proceeded to trial, and in 2019, Cromwell was found guilty of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 30 years in prison for killing Chen, who had simply been in his own vehicle enjoying a mobile game. The World of Tanks Incident. The World of Tanks incident occurred in February 2017. Brian Poshibrid Vigneault, 35, was live-streaming World of Tanks from his Virginia Beach residence as part of a charity marathon to benefit the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Viewers watched as donations steadily accumulated. By the 22nd hour of the stream, Vigneault informed his audience that he needed to step away for a quick smoke break. He left his computer and walked away from the camera. His stream continued broadcasting an empty chair as minutes turned into hours, and Vigneault never came back. Later, police responded to a 911 call regarding a cardiac arrest at his Virginia Beach home, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. The sudden passing initially stunned the gaming community, with many immediately speculating that exhaustion from the marathon stream had caused his death. However, months later, the medical examiner released the official cause of death. The autopsy disclosed that Vigneault had died from an accidental fentanyl overdose, not from complications directly related to prolonged gaming. This finding surprised many who had initially assumed his death was a direct consequence of the extreme streaming session. The tragedy nevertheless served as a somber reminder about the health and well-being of streamers, prompting conversations about the intense pressures faced by content creators during marathon charity events. The GTA Vice City Incident. The GTA Vice City incident took place on June 7, 2003, in Fayette, Alabama. Devin Moore, 18, was stopped by police for operating a stolen vehicle. Officers escorted him to the Fayette police station for questioning and processing. Moore appeared calm and compliant while being booked. While the process was underway, Moore suddenly acted, seizing Officer Arnold Strickland's pistol from its holster. Before Strickland could react, Moore fatally shot him in the head at point-blank range. Corporal James Crump, another officer present in the station, heard the shot and drew his service weapon. Moore spun and shot Crump multiple times. Dispatcher Leslie Ace Muller, working in the radio room, heard the gunfire and ran toward the commotion. Moore shot him as well. In a matter of moments, 3 law enforcement personnel lay dead within their own police station. Moore then took the keys to a patrol car and fled the building. He drove the stolen police cruiser through Fayette and into adjacent counties. Police forces across the region were put on alert. Officers eventually located the stolen cruiser about an hour later and pursued Moore along rural Alabama roads. The chase ultimately ended when Moore stopped and surrendered. He was arrested and taken into custody. During his trial, Moore's defense lawyers posited that his consumption of violent media, particularly Grand Theft Auto, had influenced his actions. Prosecutors rejected this defense argument. In 2005, Moore was found guilty on 3 counts of capital murder. The jury subsequently sentenced him to death by lethal injection. He remains incarcerated on death row in Alabama. If you found this information useful, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive, and let me know your thoughts or any similar incidents you know of in the comments below.